What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are starting to tear apart the 94 CR250. Now the goal with this today is I would like to get the suspension off just to mainly get it tuned for my settings. I'm not sure if we're gonna do any coatings on this yet. I haven't decided just because of turnaround time, and I'm kind of anxious to ride it, and plus this was kind of the look back in the day, the factory look. So like I said, I'd like to get the suspension off, get the plastics off, tank, see how the frame's doing and everything. Usually these teardown videos are kind of monotonous, but I'm actually really excited for this one just to see kind of what we got going on underneath everything and see what we need to replace, which really doesn't look like much. This bike's in really good condition. The previous owner took really good care of it. So without further ado, we'll get this thing on a tripod and start taking this apart. Alright, so we got the subframe all taken off. Next thing we'll do the shock, but it looks pretty clean. I mean, other than some, wear and tear over the 30 years this thing has existed, it's pretty dialed little setup to start with, so pretty excited about that. Other side, a little bit more of some, I don't know, boot on frame rubbing going on there. So the previous owner had these worst connection frame guards on there, so I don't know, might throw those back on after we get this frame done so this doesn't happen again. But pretty solid. I mean, there's no real like stress wear, I guess, on the frame, just your typical wear and tear. So again, pretty dialed setup to start with. Everything's pretty clean in the sense that nothing looks too worn out. Obviously we got to clean it up and get this frame repowder coated. Also the subframe, I didn't realize, is also painted white, so we'll get all the plastics off this and get the subframe recoated white as well. But continuing on, I'm gonna go ahead and take this shock off, and then we'll start with the front suspension. Suspension is all off. The reason I like to get this off first is just to get it sent out. This is the most time consuming part. So it's nice to get this stuff off to my suspension guy, which in this case, I'll probably be using Pro Circuit. Not sure on colors though. Let me know in the comments, because factory stuff looked a lot like this. So it'd be cool to do some black lugs, but I don't know, as far as the nitride coating or anything like that, coating on the tubes, I don't really see many of the factory bikes back in the day with colors going on. So silver is pretty much what stock was back then. So again, maybe we'll do some black lugs. Not sure about the shock or the fork uppers and lowers yet. Continuing on with this, I think the next process is just gonna be to take off the swing arm. I'll also get the tank taken off just to kind of see a little bit more of what we got going on with the frame. Things coming along nicely. I don't see too many parts so far that I need to replace. Let me know what you think in the comments, but I think that I'm gonna be running Electron. I had really good luck with that on the 03 that we built not too long ago. Some people say that you lose a little bit of power with Electron. I'm not sure if that's true. I never dynoed mine, but that assurance that you're never gonna get a bog or a hiccup or anything like that through the rev is just, even if it was down a horsepower or two, which I don't think is true, because, you know, seat dyno, butt dyno, whatever you want to call it, tells me that it feels exactly the same, just without the hiccup. So there's a lot more pros than there are cons, and I'm not even sure if those cons are true. So hit up the boys over at Electron, probably get one of those going on for this build as well. Just because I love that carburetor so much for the 03 straight rhythm bike that we did, which if you watch straight rhythm, you know that I had some hiccups and didn't go smoothly because of the carburetor. So I think the Electron is definitely the way to go. So continuing on, I think we'll get this chain off, get the swing arm removed. Hopefully we can get it out. Last time when we were taking apart the 03, it was really hard because this, you know, swing arm pivot was pretty seized up. So hopefully we don't have the same problem right now, but we'll go ahead and attempt to get this swing arm off right now. So I had to take it off the stand just to get enough lever to get the nut off. Now is the tough part, because I have a feeling that this thing is not gonna be easy to get out. So I think I'm just gonna try and do this off camera and hammer this swing arm pivot out. Wish me luck. I'll update you guys here in just a couple seconds. Good news, we got it out. It came out actually pretty relatively easy. Shout out to whoever assembled this thing using a proper amount of grease. I think what it is, it gets frozen inside the cases. I'm not sure if that's true for, you know, the later models like in the 03 to 05 era. Maybe it has something to do with the aluminum frame, I don't know, but these steel frames slid right out. So stoked on that. If you are rebuilding one of these, if you got this out, when you put it back in, lather this thing up in some grease. So anytime in the future when you want to take off the swing arm, it comes out with ease, because that was one thing on the 2003 build that I did a couple years ago that was just a nightmare. I actually ended up like having the thing completely frozen in there. I got it probably 2 inches out and it just wouldn't move anymore. So we took it over to the guys over at Moto Whips and they got it out for us. So stoked about that, but this build seems to be coming apart a lot easier with the older bikes. It, you know, like I said before, it tends to get seized in there. So continuing on, get this thing back on the stand and continue taking off this swing arm. All right, I lied. This thing came off right as I lifted the thing back onto the stand. Also, got a tie down on there to make sure this thing doesn't fall off the stand, because it is a little bit more front heavy than it is rear. So go ahead and set this thing aside, decide what we're gonna do with this later. Honestly, the linkage and the swing arm will probably just get cleaned up, because kind of going for the factory look. Normal wear and tear, everything's kind of greasy, so we'll get this all cleaned up and shining real nice before we get it over to Palmer's Powder Coat out here in Post Falls. So stoked to have those guys close by. They're actually doing some stuff on the 110 right now, and we'll get the tank off just to see what it looks like as far as the frame goes and stuff like that underneath here. So go ahead and throw it back on the tripod and get this tank off. Tank is all off. Looks pretty dialed. I mean, other than some dirt here and there, this thing is solid. So everything underneath looks really good. We're not dealing with the typical like throttle body, all that wiring that comes along with that. So obviously back in the day, things were a lot simpler. But everything looks really clean. So I'm really happy with that. I think that's all the progress we're gonna make on this today. Got a lot of cleaning up and organizing to do in the shop. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week's video where we tear apart this thing a little bit further. The 125 giveaway bike should be here by the time we film next week's video, so have some announcements on that. And who knows, maybe we'll start putting that together pretty soon. So thank you guys again for tuning in. We'll see you next week's video.